Yeah.
Skynet is coming for us all.
I made an AI who listened to 60 Hours of the Fun podcast and told it to write its own episode. Here's what it said. Hi, everyone.
Fart joke, dick joke, boob joke, and we're out. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Well, we should probably get started, huh? Who's hosting this, by the way?
Your mom.
I think
apparently our robot overlords, considering how we led into this.
Right? I think Joe or Justin should host.
I've only got half the list, so I mean,
fine.
I also only have half. I think it's you, Cody.
Yeah,
you're the Fondman.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Fond Pod, the Fondcast, the podcast where Joe and Justin equal one person if you put them together. Apparently, in tonight's episode, is it a top half, bottom half situation? Left, right, front, back? We'll find out as we divulge all secrets here on the Fond Podcast tonight.
Justin is definitely the bottom in their relationship.
Hey, I don't get a say in this.
No, that's why.
I'm just envisioning Justin's like
why
bottom
are you
half
envisioning
and
that?
Joe's top half. Because you said it. I have to think about it now.
You don't have to. It's conscious choice.
Yeah, I have to.
I'll
All
be
right.
thinking about it later. Hey.
Wow. We're starting crazy tonight, ladies and gents. Here we go. Who's drinking tonight, by the way? Anybody got anything out there?
Oh, I'm raising my hand. That's right. No one can see that. Yeah, I've got a gin and tonic. Cuban company.
Well, gin and tonic. What do you got? What do you?
I have some sparkling water with a little bit of flavoring in it.
Is the flavoring that Fond Podcast cup it's in?
It sure is. Look at that merch.
Very good. Very good. Brad, what do you got tonight? Anything to wet your whistle?
It's non-alcoholic, but it is delicious.
Oh, he's got the new version of the podcast cup down there.
Throwing me up.
Little merch flex.
My God, does it taste better in the Fond Podcast glass? It has to.
Everything does.
Everything does. I wouldn't disagree with that. Even disgusting things probably would taste better. Well, I found one last city water down in my closet here, and I'm going to get rid of this tonight.
What is that?
This is I think it's a Chicago.
Is it actual city of Chicago water? Because that'll probably get you messed up.
It could be.
At least 2% alcohol.
Because it does say 1% for the planet, 1% for the art, and 1% for humanity. So the other 97% are probably corruption to death. So it really could be.
Oh.
Really could be. Actually, brewed, wait, what? Brewed in Naperville, actually, it says.
Oh, hey.
Is that a little side hustle you have going on, Cody?
Not that I'm aware of, but it is a hard seltzer that is supposedly pink lemonade flavored, but I'm pretty sure is just yucky flavored. Yeah, I think it is city water. Bottled in Flint, Michigan.
More like shitty water, am I right?
Ah, boy, we're hitting everything tonight. This is great. Oh my gosh. Well, folks, we've already rambled on a bit here, but we got kind of an odd take tonight. We're going to do a 2023 mid-year check-in and see how everybody has done with their anticipated projects for the year, mostly video games and movies. Maybe a few other special topics come up as we go through things here tonight as well. Briefly, because I have a feeling we're going to get all over the place here tonight, but I haven't seen some of you guys in a while because I was on vacay for quite a bit. So, Joe, what have you been up to? What's new?
But I've been watching some movies.
Hey.
But hey, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, otherwise not a whole lot going on in terms of, the usual shows and video games and stuff. I did recently just get back into playing God of War Ragnarok, which I got a PS5 last Christmas and for some reason had not played a whole lot of it. And I had started God of War Ragnarok like when I first got the system and then just went away from it for a few months. And recently I put a number of hours in it and so far it's a pretty great game. The original, the previous God of War, which is like a reboot of the series on PS4, was like one of the better games, I think, of the past decade or so. And this one seems like it's kind of following in those footsteps. So pretty good. Other than that, I've honestly been spending a lot of my time trying to be healthier, which I know is something I've talked about a few times on this podcast, but I've been hitting the gym. I started lifting some weights and changed my diet up a little bit, trying to prioritize protein and maybe build a little muscle. I have cut very far back on the alcoholic beverages. I haven't had any in like a month at this point.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So really trying to do that, much more sparingly and just trying to kind of rock the rest of the year in that regard. So by the time you guys see me in person in a couple months, I'm just going to be ripped.
Nice.
Nice.
But that's about it for me.
All right.
Okay.
Justin, what have you been up to?
Well, I hesitate to use this term, but I might be getting a promotion at work. I don't know if my title changes at all, but they might be making me essentially the head of media and the tech side of things. So the reason this came up is because during a meeting a month or two ago, I commented on the fact that the slideshow we have in the lobby, showing everybody, it was listing people that hadn't been there for like half a year. And I just said off the cuff something like, "Give me $50 and I'll update that over the weekend." And they apparently took me seriously, and they might be, offering me, I guess, a pay bump to take on the responsibility of doing the things that the other person we've been contracting out to hasn't been bothering to do. And yeah, updating the Facebook page and that sort of thing. So so that's kind of the big thing for me right now, which is kind of cool. And hey, it's work that doesn't involve being directly involved with the general public, and I'm okay with that.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd still have like
additional hours that you're.
I'm not 100% sure yet. We're trying to hammer out exactly how it's going to work. Like if I'm going to be doing it during slow times during my regular shifts, or if I'll be coming in early to do it, or what. But either way, it should be a pay bump, I think. So that'll be kind of nice. So
I feel like the last time I talked to you, your till was short and you were in trouble, so you got a promotion from that.
Hey,
you vote Democrat, don't you?
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
just make sure you get a pay raise. Don't let them take advantage of you.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, I at this point I've been there long enough. I think I can bargain my way into something halfway decent here, especially because the person who had been there longest besides me is going to be leaving in 2 weeks. So I think I've got some leeway, some leverage.
Nice.
So yeah. But yeah, that's been my big thing recently. So I think that leaves Brett.
Yeah, Brett, what have you been up to?
Sure. Nothing crazy exciting lately. Just usual stuff. We've been we in the month of June we had to drive to Detroit 3 separate times. We started our kids in this allergy treatment program, which has been going pretty well so far. But it has made our summer's been quite busy due to that. But one thing I was thinking of before we came on here was just the fact that it's been like a really good run of video games for me this year so far. So like one of them was I picked up Dying Light because it was free on Epic Games a while back and played through that. And even though that's like 4 or 5 years old at this point, it's still really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Cody, you had been talking that up a while back.
Yeah.
But it still is a really great, just open world kind of RPG. The movement mechanics and everything was just great, just a lot of fun. And also from your guys' conversations, I mentioned a while back that I started playing Fire Emblem 3 Houses, and I beat that. And I actually beat it once, and I started playing again with another house.
Who'd you beat it with first time?
Black Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I was just curious, like how much the story would change, and it's actually quite surprising how different the story is from a different house. But overall, that is one of the better RPGs I've ever played.
Aha!
It is really enjoyable. there definitely are like issues. Like there's like plot holes and like things that like just didn't go anywhere. And I was like, oh well, hold on, what about that guy? Like I got to the end of the game, I was like, they're not gonna talk about this guy, and so there's like little things like that. But just the sheer number of like enjoyable, likable characters and just really good general gameplay. I just made that. This is just a great game. And then like a couple more games, which I will be talking about tonight. So wait to do those later.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, as mentioned, I just did a solo pod on my Bond series the other day, but I haven't really gone into detail on my vacation. So I will now be doing a day-by-day itinerary review of each hour of that. So buckle up. The first day we drove. No, I'm joking. What have I been up to recently? We have been mostly catching back up on Secret Invasion because I think when we left for vacation, there was only one episode out, and we just caught up tonight finally. So we're caught up for the finale for that. And we've just finished season 3 of Stranger Things with the kids. And they're excited to do the last season of that now. And let me think. Beyond that, I have also been playing a few games, some of which I'll talk about tonight. The one that's not on my list for tonight, but I dabbled a little bit on when we were on vacation, and I've played once maybe since we've been back, is No Man's Sky, and I'm really enjoying it so far. But my problem is with the game, just briefly, it constantly has like directions for you on the screen, which is kind of weird. I don't know if you can turn that off or not, but like the lower right is always like, hey, you should be doing this, or here's how to do this, which actually has been helpful most of the time. Except like right now I'm stuck at a part where like there's a piece broke on my ship and I don't know how the hell to fix it because I've been playing it so infrequently. Like I could probably look it up, I know, but I expected the game to be like, hey, remember, here's how to do this. And I'm like, oh, because it almost seems like you need like this other thing to do that thing, but I might not have the thing to do that first thing to get the second thing. So I'm like, I don't know what happened here. Did I break the loop? Or I'm sure it's not, but anyway. And then also wanted to do a quick shout out randomly here. When I was at the public library last night, I picked up a comic series, graphic novels I haven't heard of before called East of West. There's at least 9 volumes at the library.
That don't make no sense.
I know, right? I went through just about every shelf they had and then finally found this series towards the end, and there was a lot of them. So I was like, let me see what this is. And it's interesting. It's like alternate history where like the United States, I don't think it's like based on World War II. It's like something later, like the Cold War, something happened, I think, early Cold War, and somehow the country split in 7 sections, I believe. But it's kind of interesting. Like one's ruled by Native Americans, one is like Mao's Chinese that came across the sea when they were kicked out of their country and like took over a chunk of the land. And on top of all of this, you have these characters called the Chosen, who are like really mystically type beings. I don't really understand who they are yet. And they have this like philosophy they follow called the Message, which other people in the world know about. But on top of all of that, they also have the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in the world at the same time as well. So you're following their exploits also. So I just finished the first trade paperback, and it was enjoyable so far. I like when I find like a weird one when I'm at the library. So I got that, and then actually I also got DC versus Vampires, I think it's called. There's 2 episodes of that out, or 2 books of that out also. So I'm intrigued to check that out. I don't follow DC very often, but that was like a good storyline like that. So. Whew. All right, that'll do it, everybody. So this has been Friends Occasionally. Just kidding.
Oh,
not yet. All right, well, 2023, we got some grading to do here, but not really. Chatting back about things you were excited about. What have you done off your list so far? What have you not got to? How come you didn't get to those? What's the deal with that? Is there anything you have coming up yet this year you're excited for? So I think we said we'd kind of go person by person, maybe, to not talk over each other as much as possible, and then maybe some fun questions here for everybody at the end too. So I would suggest, why don't we keep the same order we just did? Does that work?
Sure.
That's fair to me. I think so. Yeah.
Brosif, what have you been up to? Been dropping bombs or not?
Not yet, but I'll talk about that. Am I talking about all my things, or am I talking about like one thing and then the next person is talking about a thing and we come back, or
I
How
think
we
we
doing?
just let you go monologue on this. Otherwise, we're going to get crazy.
All right. Oh boy. Well, um, well, some of you gents partook of a episode discussing most anticipated video games of the year. I was not on that episode, so
Ooh.
I only have a list of my most anticipated films of the year to discuss, and I have not been doing super well on that front. I mean,
Lifting
about
too many
half.
weights.
That's what it is. I'm getting too buff. Theaters can't even contain all my muscles. What's happening?
Wait, I didn't clarify. Are they shake weights?
Maybe.
Okay.
Fisting.
So I mean, about half of my list either has not come out, or actually two of the movies on my list are coming out this weekend, which I'll talk about in a minute. I'll start with my honorable mentions, I guess. I had 3 honorable mentions. 2 of them have been released. One of them I did not see, which was the Super Mario Brothers movie. I'll watch it when it's on streaming for free, but I just didn't feel the need to pay to see it. The movie I did see that was in my honorable mentions was Cocaine Bear, which I don't need to say much about because we already did an entire episode about it. And then the other one of my honorable...
But to be fair, you ripped it apart while these two weren't there. They just wrote their comments on that one. So
that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't rip it. Listen, I didn't rip it apart as much as Cocaine Bear should have been ripping more people apart in that movie, but I think I gave it a 6.5. It was fun. It just wasn't like, I don't think lived up to its potential. I needed more cocaine and more bear. See, that's the problem, is it was better than it should have been, and I feel like it needed to be worse than it was.
yeah.
Like, I wanted it to lean more into the, B-moviness of it, and instead it felt like it was trying to be like a real movie, at least throughout a lot of it, and it just didn't. I mean, Cody and I kind of agreed that it felt like Kerry Russell's character was just in an entirely different movie from everyone else. Like, she was in a serious drama where she's trying to find her kid, and everyone else was in Cocaine Bear. And, like, the two halves just never felt like they meshed.
I can agree with that.
They told her that Cocaine Bear was like a code name for a Mexican drug lord. She was playing it all tight. Then later they're like, just kidding, CGI bear.
He didn't know that the bear was the Cocaine Bear. That little kid was still my favorite. Anyway, that movie was all right. My other honorable mention is coming out later this year, and that was The Marvels. Oh. And I've kind of cooled on that a little bit. I liked Captain Marvel a lot, and I liked Miss Marvel, the Disney Plus series, a lot. And so I was excited to see them coming together in this movie. But realistically, I think that's going to be like a wait until it's on Disney Plus for me. I don't know if I'm going to feel the need to go to the theater for that. Yeah, are you guys more hyped on that?
I don't know. The Freaky Friday aspect of it is just, I don't know how I feel about that, in all honesty. Like, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like, I mean, from the trailer, this is not a spoiler because it's in the trailers, but it seems like the premise is that whenever one of them uses or tries to use their power, they switch places with another one.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see how that plays out, but it does feel a little contrived. I don't know.
Yeah.
This will not shock you, but I'm excited for it.
I mean, I'll see what the reactions are. If it gets, really positive buzz, I might go to the theater. But as I said, when we did our first episode about Secret Invasion, assuming we do a recap after it's over, I am feeling the Marvel fatigue, so we'll see.
Well, you know who else is? Disney.
It's true.
We can talk about that later too. All right. What else?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so 2 of my movies in my top 10 proper have come out and I have not seen. Those are Renfield, which I'll watch at some point, but it sounds like it was just not great. That's another one where I was kind of hoping it would be like awesomely bad. I mean, Nicolas Cage is Dracula. How could you go wrong? And it sounds like they maybe kind of went wrong. But I'll probably watch it on streaming at some point. And then The other one I might actually see tomorrow. We'll see, but it's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I'm honestly not sure why I haven't seen that in the theater. I think I said this when we did our original anticipated movies preview. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I still think is the greatest superhero movie ever made. And I was really excited for this follow-up, and for some reason I just didn't get to the theater to see it. So I'm thinking I might go see it tomorrow, but otherwise I'll definitely watch it once it hits streaming. Let's talk about two other movies that I haven't seen but that are opening this weekend, and that is Barbenheimer. All the kids are talking about. We got the epic face-off between Greta Gerwig's Barbie movie and Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. I want to see both of them in the theater. I don't know if I'm going to get to see Barbie this weekend. My wife wants to see it, and she's going to be out of town, so I don't know if I could see it without her. On the Oppenheimer side of things, though, I actually have tickets to see a 70 millimeter IMAX presentation of Oppenheimer next weekend.
Nice.
So I'm going to have to wait a week on that. Part of the reason I'm waiting is that all of the showings in that format are sold out, or at the time I bought tickets were sold out between like this weekend and next weekend, including all next week. I would imagine next weekend is probably sold out too. I mean, for anyone who's not aware, Christopher Nolan shot the movie Oppenheimer on 70 millimeter IMAX film, which is just an exceedingly rare feat in itself. I mean, most movies these days aren't shot on any sort of film at all. Everything's shot digital. And Christopher Nolan is kind of like one of the last purist holdouts who insists on shooting his movies on film. But the 70 millimeter format apparently is just like super high resolution, like just like the best possible format anyone can imagine. Christopher Nolan described it as basically being like 3D without the glasses. Like it's just like such a clear like depth of image and just looks so fantastic.
I remember watching Sam Jackson's Dingus in that format.
I too remember Sam Jackson's Big Black Dingus in 70 millimeter. Yeah, Quentin Tarantino shot The Hateful Eight on that, but the IMAX 70 millimeter is yet a step beyond that because it's made for the true IMAX format, and there are only 19 theaters in the entire United States that are capable of projecting it in that format. And one of them happens to be in Grand Rapids, where I live. I was actually surprised to see that they're done in Illinois. And I know that there are at least 2 true IMAX theaters in Illinois. So I don't know if maybe they just aren't equipped with the film projectors anymore, but I thought it was weird that they weren't on the list. But anyway, I actually was on the fence about it, but one of my friends who lives up north actually messaged me and asked if I was planning to see it in the 70 millimeter because we have it, happening in Grand Rapids, and she's actually going to come down and go see it with my wife and I. So nice. It's going to be like a special event. So that should be fun. Movies I have seen that were in my list. I've got 3 that were in my top 3. The top 3 that I was anticipating most have all been released so far this year, and I've seen them all. And man, I was surprised by the feelings I had on them. I'm going to talk about them in order that they were released and not the order they are on my list. So the one that came out first this year was John Wick Chapter 4, which came out, I think, in April, maybe. It was earlier this year. And that was my number 2. Actually, I think I said at the time that it was basically tied for number 1 on my list. Like I love the John Wick franchise. I think the first 3 movies are all perfect. And I think they just get better. Like the first 3, each installment is just like crazier and like the action just gets better and better, and I adore those movies. And Chapter 4 kind of fell flat for me, and I was really disappointed by that. I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm not saying it was a bad movie or didn't enjoy it, but it just felt like a big step down for me. So it was not a great start to the year. Anyone else have a chance to see that movie?
I haven't seen that.
I have not, but at least it didn't go to space like a lot of series do by the fourth installment.
I mean, I would not be surprised if another movie I talk about, if that franchise does end up in space, but we'll get to that in a minute. The next one I wanted to talk about, which I'm curious, I don't know if any of you have seen this one, which surprises me because I don't feel like a lot of people have seen it. That was my number 3 most anticipated film of the year, which was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Am I the only one who's seen that?
My wife was trying really hard to get us to go to it, and we couldn't find anybody to watch the kids. So we missed out so far.
Go ahead, Justin.
No. I was just going to say, like, I'm pretty sure I said in our chat on Facebook at some point, if I wanted to see a senior citizen go on adventures, I would buy my dad a whip and a fedora.
Boo. Well, fuck you and your naysaying. I love this movie. I was actually surprised by how much I like this movie. Going into it, I really tried to keep my expectations low. The early reactions to it out of Cannes when it premiered were actually not very positive. They were super mixed. And I mean, it's not the best Indiana Jones movie, but I honestly think it might be the 3rd best Indiana Jones movie. I mean, especially with the benefit of, hindsight and perspective, I think it might be a better movie than Temple of Doom, which, people want to fight me for. But I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. Harrison Ford actually seems like he's trying, which is something that he's been doing in several projects over the past few years. It both feels like an Indiana Jones movie, and it feels like a much more appropriate send-off for the character than the last movie that people don't like to talk about did. And it has emotional stakes. Like, it brings, like, real emotional stakes to the franchise, I feel like. I mean, Last Crusade did that, obviously, with, like, his father and the relationship there, but I feel like this maybe does even more than that. It really kind of asks the question of who is Indiana Jones and, like, what is his place in the world as it kind of, advances and gets modernized. And as he gets towards the end of his life, like, it's not shy about the fact that he is an elderly man and probably does not have many adventures left in him. But yeah, I mean, if I was giving it a number rating, I'd probably give it an 8.5.
Oh, okay.
It's not the best Indiana Jones movie, but for me, at least, I feel like it belongs at least very close to the original trilogy, if not possibly better than at least one entry in that trilogy. I was just shocked by how much I liked it. And then the last one that I have seen is the other one that I mentioned it as my number 1, but again, I feel like John Wick was kind of tied with it. And that is Mission: Impossible M- Dead Reckoning Part 1. And that is the 7th installment in the Mission Impossible series, which, much like John Wick, is one of my favorite franchises. I think it's probably the greatest ongoing action franchise in cinema. And it's one that boggles my mind because I don't feel like most people I know have seen any of these movies, or at least haven't seen any of them since the first one. And especially the last several, like starting with, I think Mission Impossible 3 was great, mostly because Philip Seymour Hoffman was the villain in that, and he's like amazing and terrifying in that movie. but especially starting with the fourth entry, it has become a franchise that is dedicated to Tom Cruise trying to get himself killed on camera for our amusement. Like, literally, the way they make these movies is Tom Cruise and the director come up with a stunt that Tom Cruise wants to perform by himself, like actually putting his own life online. And then they build a movie around that stunt. Like, it's literally like, how is Tom Cruise going to try to get himself killed this time? And I mean, I think we've talked on this podcast before about, how at least a few of us have a strong preference for practical effects as opposed to CGI. And I think it shows. I think it shows in this franchise that, a lot of the action is actually being done by the actors and especially Tom Cruise. And it just looks real in a way that, something like the Fast and the Furious franchise or, things that get ridiculous with CGI like that just don't have that same, real feeling to them. I will say I felt like this one was a slight step backwards from the last Mission Impossible movie. I think Mission Impossible Fallout, which was the sixth movie, I think is like just a freaking amazing, insane action movie. This one is like up there in the mix with the last few entries, but it felt like it was maybe a little bit too long, especially since it is part one of two. So it's Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Dead Reckoning Part 1 is literally 2 hours and 45 minutes long. And it would be fine if it was all action, but there is a lot of, like, feels like there's a lot more people in rooms talking in this movie than there has been in the past few. So I'd still say it's worth checking out, especially if you are a fan of the franchise. If you haven't seen them, definitely check the whole franchise out because they're awesome. If I had to give that one a numerical rating, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. Really solid, a lot of fun, but, not quite as good as some previous entries. That's all I've got as far as what I've seen. Should I talk briefly about what else is coming up this year, or are we doing that later, Cody?
I'd say do it now, but
yeah, why don't you tell us like what your one or two most anticipated ones are for the year, with the caveat that it could be one you missed already this year as well.
Sure. Probably my most anticipated, if I'm being honest, is Killers of the Flower Moon, which is the new Martin Scorsese movie. And I mean, he's probably the greatest living director in the world. And it's based on I'm not sure if it's nonfiction or if it's a novel, but it's based on a book, which is based on true events. And it's set in the early 20th century. I forget where it's set, like what state it's set in, but it's basically a true story about, I think it was the Osage tribe of Native Americans. They basically were, I believe they were given like reservation land in an area that they subsequently discovered had a crap load of oil on it. So they started drilling the oil, and like all these, Native Americans got super rich off of the oil. And as they tend to do, some white folks didn't take too kindly to that and started trying to like worm their way into the situation. And there were a series of murders that happened as they tried to kind of get control of the oil. So Scorsese's making a new movie about that, and it looks phenomenal. They've released, I think, 2 trailers at this point, and the second trailer is just like a masterclass in editing all in itself. Like just the use of music and the editing throughout it. It's like, I don't know how you could watch that trailer and not just like want to watch this movie when it comes out. It looks phenomenal. It's got an all-star cast: Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Brendan Fraser, who's having a comeback in the past couple of years, did it. A bunch of other random, well-known people. But that's got to be my number one. Kind of quick honorable mention: Dune Part 2 is another one I'm really looking forward to. I did just read that might actually get bumped to next year as a result of the ongoing writers and actors strikes. The idea being that if they're still striking, they're not going to be able to do any publicity for it, which could hurt that movie. So
Call Justin.
So if that comes out this year, that'll be my other most anticipated. But that's all I got.
All right. Was there? Yeah, I know you weren't here for the video game one, but was there a video game you were looking forward to for this year?
I mean, my most anticipated game of the year is one that I don't know if I'm even going to be able to play once it comes out, and that is Starfield, which is the forthcoming Bethesda RPG. Bethesda's games tend to be like my absolute favorite. They make the latter entries in the Fallout series and the Elder Scrolls games, and I have sunk so many hundreds of hours into those games. And Starfield is their first original IP in like decades, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's basically like using a similar setup to those games, but an entirely new IP, new world, based on kind of like more realistic sci-fi, I guess, like space exploration stuff. I mean, what I've seen of it looks really cool. The problem is Bethesda is owned by Microsoft now, and I don't own a Microsoft console, and I also don't own a gaming PC that would be able to run it. So unless I don't think they're going to release it on PlayStation. My one hope is they have started releasing some Microsoft games on GeForce Now, which is NVIDIA streaming service that I have a subscription for, so I might be able to play it that way, but we'll see.
Don't worry, Jill. They'll make a downgraded Switch version just to prove to Sony that they don't have a monopoly. You'll be fine.
We'll see.
You'll be fine. All right. Justin, what have you been up to this year? What looks good? What have you done? What have you not seen? What have you played?
Okay, so in the flip side of Joe's take on things, I was only part of the top 10 games episode that we did a while back, and not the top 10 movies. That said, I don't go to the theaters much, but I did go to see a couple films this year. One was on what would have been my top 10 list, the Dungeons and Dragons movie, Honor Among Thieves, which was a lot better than I thought it would be. It had a lot of heart. It was genuinely witty and entertaining, some great action sequences, and much better than I was afraid it was going to be. The other film that I've seen in theaters this year was Sisu, which I kind of saw on a whim because some friends of mine were like, hey, we're going to go see this. And it was like towards the end of the workday. I'm like, can I come with? That sounds interesting. So that was the story of a former Finnish commando during World War II. He had been a part of the Winter War, which was the war between Finland and Russia years ago, and he just wanted to get away from it all. He was just trying living out in the middle of nowhere in Finland, and he was digging for gold. That was what he wanted his life to be. And meanwhile, the World War II is pressing closer and closer and closer in the distance. And the story starts off where he actually finds gold, and it's a significant amount of it. So he bags up as much as he can. The only problem is the nearest bank where he can do anything with it is hundreds of miles away towards the front lines. So it's the story of him basicly cleaving a bloody path of destruction through Nazis for 90 minutes, and it is fantastic. If you're in the mood for just a very cathartic, entertaining action flick, Sisu is wonderful. It's a little far-fetched, a little outlandish at times in terms of some of the stuff that he does, but I'm going to go with the rule of cool and allow it because it's just a fun film.
Sure you weren't just watching somebody play Doom?
Watch the John Wick movies.
I've seen some of them. I haven't seen all of them, but I like what I saw. But Sisu, definitely a good time. So going to the games that I had on my list, I don't remember all of the ones I had as honorable mentions, but I did play one of them because I had put in a pre-order for it, and that was Process of Elimination, one of two murder mystery sorts of games that I was looking forward to. Of the two, this one had the least gameplay revealed, and I understand why. From what they had shown, it looked like it was going to be kind of a mix of like adventure game and almost board game, where you had to like move the different detectives around and discover things. But it ended up being a 95% like visual novel with very few choices,
no.
and then the 5% was the actual like interactive stuff.
Mhm.
The setup for this one is basically you're an up and coming detective, wants to make a name for himself, and you get approached by someone who claims to be part of this like worldwide conglomeration of detectives, and he wants to recruit you to the cause. Uh, Things happen. You end up on the island where their headquarters is, and something has gone horribly wrong. Like you wake up alone. You're not sure exactly where everyone else is. You pass a building that looks deserted. You eventually make your way to the headquarters, and you find out that you and the rest of the detectives have been kind of trapped there by a serial killer named the Quartering Duke, who basically wants you all to kill each other, before one of you can get off the island. That's kind of the setup. And it was an interesting story despite the lack of interaction. But here's a tip for everyone listening: if you're like me and you like buying special editions of games because they come with extra stuff, don't read through the art book, because during my playthrough I got tired of just hitting X to continue, so I decided, oh, I'll flip through the art book, see some of the concept art and stuff. And as I'm flipping through, I see a passage on one of the pages, and once you see something like this, you can't unsee it. And it said, it was I think like a little commentary from the artist. Initially, I didn't intend for this character to be the mastermind.
Oh
At that point, it's just
no!
like, I
Oh
think, okay, this just
no!
ruined the game for me. So I never actually finished it, because it's like, okay, I know who's behind everything, and I'm like, God damn it, why would you do this? Um,
That's awful.
yeah, but if you like visual novels, you might like this one, but it didn't have enough gameplay for me anyway, so it's probably saved me a good like 20 hours or something. So that was the only honorable mention I remember from my top 10 list. A lot of the ones that were in my top 10 haven't come out yet. Karma: The Dark World, not out yet. That was the weird surrealistic horror game with like the strange capitalist bent to it. Pal World, Pokemon with Guns, that's actually has been bumped into at least January of next year. So let's see, Hollow Knight Silksong, who knows? Sea of Stars, I don't think has come out yet. That was the sort of retro 16-bit style RPG from that took a lot of inspiration from Chrono Trigger, not out yet. Which leaves half the list that has come out. Starting with, let's see, Atomic Heart, haven't played because the reviews of it were very lackluster. Like visually, it seemed like that it was really good, but the actual narrative was just awful from what I gather. That was the game that is like a Fallout, except from the Russian side of things, and with the weird idiosyncrasies ramped up to 11. Only problem is, I gather the voice acting is terrible, the plot is pretty terrible, like everything except like the graphics is just not good. So I never bothered picking that one up. Let's see.
Yeah, from what I saw, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, which is a little bit of a shame, because I had high hopes for that one, and then it's just like, oh well, it's nice to look at, and then the rest of it is like over sexualized and like poorly written. So it's like, let's see. Tales, Trails to Azure and Trails into Reverie are both out, I think, at this point, but I haven't played them yet because they're both easily 70 to 100 hours long, and I just haven't been in the right position where I wanted to sink that kind of time into two games back to back to get the full story. So I'll play through them at some point. I'm still like looking forward to them. Those are again the most recent entries into a very, very long running series of JRPGs that started back on like the PSP and is still going in until today. So I've played a good chunk of them up until this point. It's a very interesting interwoven narrative, but it's a big time sink, and I just haven't found it in me to sit down and devote that kind of time to those yet. Let's see. One I have actually played most of the way through was Labyrinth of Galeria, the Moon Society, which was a sequel to another game of a similar title, Labyrinth of Refrain, The Coven of Dusk. No direct connection as far as I'm able to tell, but first-person dungeon crawler. And I have to give it credit for being well illustrated and for having voice acting for damn near every line in the game. This is a very niche title. Like, I can't imagine it's going to sell very well at all, but they went through and put in English voice acting for like every single line of dialogue, which is almost unheard of for a tiny little title like this. I enjoyed it for a good chunk, and then like you get to the end of the first story arc and then it stops, and then another story picks up that seemingly has no connection to the first story except for some of the characters who are fulfilling different roles. Like, the setting is different, the characters aren't the same people anymore, the time period in which it's set is different, and I have no idea how it all connects. But I went through a bit more in there, basically starting again from square one. And then I realized, okay, I'm like 100 floors deep into this one area, and I look up on GameFAQs, like, okay, how much more of this is there to go? There's like another 100 or so floors in that area, plus more after that, plus more after that. I'm like, I'm burnt out, because at that point I'd spent probably like 80 hours on the game, and I know I just said I didn't want to sink like 70 or 100 hours into an RPG, but this one is something you can play in small bursts and not worry about losing the story. But it was okay. For a while, it was really enjoyable if you like first-person dungeon crawlers. But eventually, even a really good thing can get to be too much of that good thing. And I might come back to it someday, but it just really kind of overstayed its welcome, unfortunately. But if you like the genre, you might have more patience for this length than I did. So that's that one. The System Shock remake was on my list, and I've only played a little bit of this because it came out, and I jumped in, and I really liked the beginning sections, and then we had a heat wave, and I know I shouldn't complain about this because down south it's like Phoenix has had like 3 straight weeks of 110-degree weather, but we had a stretch of like 90+ degree weather up here as far north as I am, and I didn't want my gaming PC to overheat or anything, so I stopped really using it during that stretch, and I just haven't gotten back to that game since, unfortunately. But it's good so far, what I played of it. It's got a strange aesthetic to it because it's modern lighting effects, semi-modern graphics and stuff, but it's like pixelated textures kind of, and the enemy models are 3D rendered, but they look almost pixelated themselves. It's weird, but I think it's trying to be a throwback to like the 1992 or 93 version, whenever the first System Shock came out, and it's an art style that's going to take some getting used to if you're not prepared for it, but it works in the end, I think. And again, as a recap of what System Shock is, it's you play a hacker who gets busted for trying to steal the schematics to like some sort of military augment. And basically you get the Hyper Corporation sends its thugs to bag you, and you get dragged before one of their CEOs, and he's like, look, I could send you to jail, but I recognize your skills. So what I want you to do instead is make you an offer. You do this job for me, and I'll give you the military implant that you wanted. I'll even install it for you. All you have to do is head up to the space station and disable the ethical restraints on the AI that's running everything, because if it's some by someone outside the company, yeah, exactly. What could possibly go wrong? And everything goes wrong. And this game inspired a lot of things. It inspired BioShock. The enemy, the villain of it, an AI called Shodan, heavily inspired GLaDOS from Portal. It's just a really good time.
Now I feel like I need to play that.
I recommend it. It does have a lot of old school mechanics, like you can pick up damn near anything and carry it along with you.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that like BioShock was like a spiritual successor to System Shock.
Mm-hmm.
So that had me curious, but now that you had to go and mention GLaDOS, that just makes me really want to play it.
Yeah. And you get to kind of see Shodan, the AI, you get to see her psyche kind of devolve over time until she gets more and more deranged, and it's really neat. So yeah, highly recommended, even though I'm not terribly far into it because of the heat wave that we had. Let's see. That brings us to, I mentioned that one. So one that I only got in the mail a couple of days ago is the other detective mystery or murder mystery centric game that I was looking forward to, Master Detective Archives Rain Code. And this one is made by the same people who made the Danganronpa games. And those games, feature a cast of diverse and quirky characters put into a central location, trapped there, and the only way to get out is for one of them to kill someone else and not get caught. So that's Danganronpa. And that influence is already visible in this. It's not related directly, but same team, same art style, that sort of thing. In this, you play as you wake up and you have amnesia, which gets explained pretty early into the game. But you are a detective, ostensibly, and you are on a train with a bunch of other detectives, or at least people who are calling themselves detectives, and you're being sent to this semi-autonomous city called Kanai Ward, which is owned by kind of a mega corporation, and they don't really like the standard police being there, but being that you're part of a kind of global detective agency, you're allowed a bit more leeway. And there's 5 other detectives on the train, and they each have some sort of special ability. Like one can talk to animals, so he can like send mice to like scope out locations and stuff. Another can channel the spirits of the dead by wearing their clothes. So really kind of weird, quirky stuff. And you've all been sent to try and investigate something that will be explained to you once you get there. Being that you have amnesia, you don't know exactly what your special ability is, but early on you realize you've made a pact with some sort of demon that the game gets weird. I was going to say that. That once things start going wrong, she can sort of pause space-time and sort of conceptualize all the events of the case into a labyrinth that you can traverse and try to fight your way through until you find the truth of what actually happened. It's really bizarre, and I'm not very far into it yet, but I'm liking what I've seen so far. And if you like strange games with interesting premises, and you like the whole mystery aspect of things, highly recommended so far. I'm only a few hours in because, like I said, it only got to me in the mail the other day, but I've seen enough to know that I like it. And I do have to point out, I know I give the Nintendo Switch a lot of crap, but this game looks phenomenal on that. Like there's reflections, like real-time reflections on surfaces. The lighting effects look good. The character models look actually decent. I haven't noticed a lot of slowdown yet. I'm not sure what witchcraft they pulled off to make this thing look like it does on the Switch, but it looks really good. So that's me tipping my hat to you, Cody. The Switch.
You're just finally realizing the potential. That's okay.
But look up like footage of this, and you'll see what I mean. It for a Switch game, it looks great.
I'm gonna check out a little more on this one.
Yeah, I think you might like it if you can get past the strange quirkiness of it all. But yeah, that's Master Detective Archives Rain Code. Worth checking out so far. And that leaves the last thing on my list, which I just checked, and I realized since I pre-ordered it, I could technically be playing it right now. But
did you go through GameStop again?
No. The Epic Game Store, actually. This doesn't come out until the 25th, but pre-ordering it gives you access 3 days early, except I guess if you get it digitally, it gets you access 4 days early. This is Remnant 2, the sequel to Remnant from the Ashes, which was a sadly kind of overlooked sci-fi third-person shooter from, I think, 2019. So this one picks up, I haven't played it yet, but I probably will be as soon as we finish this podcast. It is hard to explain because the story is kind of out there. In the first game, at least, there was this, in a lot of sci-fi first-person or third-person shooters like Doom and Quake and whatnot, it all involves around portal technology, right? So this kind of also does the same thing, but in a weird sort of way, where a group of scientists were experimenting with it. They opened a portal to where one shouldn't have gone, and bad things came through. That was kind of the setup of the first one. But the cool thing about this series is it's not exactly a looter shooter, but there is an emphasis on finding stuff and modifying your equipment and all that. But it was all procedurally generated. So as opposed to something like, say, Destiny, where okay, you can go back for loot and you know always what you're going to find. You never quite knew what you're going to run into every time you loaded up an area in Remnant. And I gather from the reviews I've seen of the second one, this takes that and just like iterates on it to the extreme. Like you can play through the entire game, and one reviewer said you'd probably only see about 25% of the content because there are randomized bosses, there are randomized areas, randomized quest givers. The weapons you'll find are not set in stone. It sounds just like it is a heck of a lot for what amounts to a budget title. I think it's only $50, versus a lot of games now are 60 or 70. There's a heavy emphasis on multiplayer, but it sounds like they've made this more accessible for a single player experience. But yeah, there's different classes you can choose, different mods you can do to your guns or your character or what have you. It just sounds like from all the advanced reviews I've heard that there's a lot of replayability, that the gunplay is good, and just the overall experience could be like the sleeper hit of the year from what I've heard. So seeing that it is actually available to play now, I'm looking forward to giving it a go. Otherwise, if you haven't pre-ordered it, it's available on the 25th, so just in a few days. So, but yeah, I think that is everything from my list, looking at what I've got in the background here. But yeah, so only like half of those are actually out at this point, and the other half, are delayed until who knows when. So
Do you have a most anticipated game or movie left for this year that hasn't come out yet?
Movies, not so much. Probably the most anticipated game of what I have on this list would be it's got to be a Silk Song if it comes out. But if that gets pushed back again, Sea of Stars, because a good old fashioned 16-bit RPG done right is a wonderful thing. So, yeah.
All right, Brett.
Cool. All right, so I was part of both the movie and game list. So I had a total of 20 media things that I was anticipating this year. I've only seen 6 of those, or experienced 6 of those at this point, and one of those was just last night when we watched a movie. So do have some catching up to do, but I think actually like most of these, I was just looking over my list here, and I think the majority of my stuff is actually out in one form or another. Just need to like get around for example, Knock at the Cabin is on my list, and that comes out free on Amazon Prime in 4 days. So I just gotta wait a few more days and I'll watch that for free. And some of these other movies as well, I probably will wait until they're available somewhere at a discounted rate. But to go through my list here of what I have seen, number 9 on my movie list was 65. This is the movie with Adam Driver, and he, in the trailer you see he like crashes on Earth and he's like fighting dinosaurs and stuff. It looked like it could have been like a really kind of fun, like just not again like not a great movie, but just like a fun dumb movie, and it was one of those things. So just a really short synopsis of the plot here. Basically, what happens is Adam Driver is piloting the starship, and he's transporting passengers from one planet to another. There's really not any details of what it is, but it's essentially like this 2-year trip, which I think meant like 1 year there and like 1 year to get back. And he has to leave his family, his wife and his daughter behind to go do this. But basically, he's gonna like make enough money to like more or less retire, so he takes the job. And like halfway or like most of the way through the trip, they like go through this asteroid field that they weren't expecting. It's like the first moment of oh, that was not done really well was the computer. So Adam Driver, everyone else is in cryostasis for this trip. Adam Driver's the pilot. He's awake. The computer warns him, like wakes him up. It's like, hey, you gotta take care of something here. But it like does it way too late. Like computer piloting a starship probably could have anticipated that a little earlier. But anyways, they crash, and it turns out they crash on Earth. This is like an ancient humanoid civilization that crashes on Earth 65 million years ago. It the plot was just like okay. It was nothing like original or clever about it. It was pretty standard crash on a planet, fighting dinosaurs to get away. Visually, it was pretty well done overall. I would say it looked good. The sets were pretty good. The CGI was well done overall. The problem was like the dialogue was below average at best. Like for half the movie, Adam Driver's character is like traveling with this girl who does not speak the same language he does, and so they're just like he's talking to her, but clearly she doesn't understand anything. And just like half of it is like, why are you even talking? And like they're trying to like communicate, and it's just like I don't know, it's all weird and not well done. But I mean the characters were okay themselves, just they weren't real interesting though either. And the dinosaur action was like not as tense or gripping as I had hoped for. I had mentioned in my list, I thought like maybe it would be like really kind of intense and like this kind of suspenseful thing like the first Jurassic Park movie was, and it really wasn't. There wasn't a whole lot of that where they were like hiding and being stalked by creatures. And but the last fight scene was probably the more engaging part of the movie, but it just was kind of like too little too late, and even that wasn't like great. And then, like it's like we get to the end of the movie, and I'm just gonna go ahead and like semi spoil it here. But anyway, you could probably expect that they get off the planet, so this isn't really a spoiler. But so Adam Driver and this girl they make it to this escape pod and get off the planet. And they've managed to send a distress signal out, and has been received, and there's a ship coming to get them. So now this ship, they've been on this trip for like 7-8 months, and presumably the rescue ships are not going to get there any faster, and they're in an escape pod with no food or water. So what's going to happen to them?
They're going down.
But I don't know. It like I say, it wasn't a lot that I really enjoyed about it. It was okay. I'd give this like a 4.5 out of 10. Definitely did not meet what I hoped it would be. But next on the list, our fourth most anticipated movie was Quantumania. One of the funny parts was this one was like I was certain that we had done an episode on the podcast about this, and we have not.
Nope.
So I mean, whatever. But and I'm not gonna. I won't not gonna like rehash the plot of this one too much, but it just kind of like in general felt like pretty standard Marvel movie at this point. The setup was at least a little bit unique in that it wasn't like this villain comes to Earth and like starts wreaking havoc, and like the protagonists have to like stop it. It's like they get accidentally sucked into the quantum realm, and then they eventually they meet up. They find King the Conqueror down there, who is like the big bad guy. He's trying to get out of the quantum realm, and big fight ensues then. But
tiny fight ensues.
Tiny. Yes.
Thanksgiving fight ensues. Ants everywhere.
I mean, I would say the plot was fine. It I don't really recall any of the acting or performances that were bad. It was pretty solid overall all around. Visually, it worked for me. It was, this was kind of a one where I was kind of questioning beforehand, like, well, what exactly is this movie going to be? Because all of it is going to have to be basically CGI. Like, how much are they going to do practically with a movie that's set in a completely different this quantum realm? But overall, I thought it worked well. And it did good there. I thought there was enough humor to keep it fun. And you had Bill Murray doing Bill Murray things, which is always delightful. it just the big problem with it was it didn't do anything to set up Marvel's phase 5 like we expected it to. It like Kang felt like there could have really been potential there with the way they set up the character. Because he's like they set him up to be like, pretty powerful and like ruthless, which is a good combination for a bad guy. But then in the end, they not only like defeated him, but killed him. So it wasn't like somebody they just like pushed off to where he'll come back later, essentially. And like there weren't any like real stakes at the end, and he didn't feel dangerous. It was just like, well, okay, he was a guy. And one thing is, as I was writing this, I did have like a question that came in my head, like, so this Kang is stuck in the quantum realm, but he's like also involved like in some sort of communication, like this Kang collective like is aware of him. Could they not have all worked together to get him out?
Maybe they're trying to keep things low key.
Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, I don't know. I jump in for a second on this one too, because this is on my list of ones. But I'm trying to remember the ending, because I thought when we left the theater, wasn't there like at least a little ambiguity, and like he had like, I don't remember, something like he had like been turned into electricity or something, or like traveled through something possibly at the end of it. I couldn't remember, but I thought there was a little.
He got arrested.
Ambiguity. No, Joe.
He's in a trial. What?
On this movie, though, speaking of, yes, I had read in the last week, apparently, that this movie had a vastly different script until pretty late into production, and they actually had to reshoot and redo the movie quite a bit, not because of Jonathan Majors, but because of Bill Murray's accusations. They shrank his role down to like 1/5 of what it was, apparently, in the movie, which caused the entire plot to be switched around quite a bit at the last moment, I guess. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds like it would cause a mess.
Just something I hadn't heard before.
But yeah, other than that, I like that final scene with all the Kang variants in that Coliseum like area. I think it was like, it was supposed to give us this feeling of like dread, like, oh God, this is not going to be good. But the feeling that I got from it was just like, oh God, this is really weird. Like doesn't feel like a threat. It's just like these people need help. But I mean, overall, I thought the movie was pretty solid. It was enjoyable for the most part. I'm giving this 6.5 out of 10. So pretty solid. The one movie that we watched just last night, and we were going to wait until it was free streaming. And then we decided, you know what, let's just go ahead and buy it, because I wanted to watch it for this. But just we had been waiting so long, it was like, let's just get it done. So Guardians of the Galaxy 3, so we watched last night. It was my number 2 most anticipated movie. And I'm not going to rehash a lot of it, of the plot, because Cody and Dave did a whole episode on that. You guys did a great job, and I basically agree with most everything that you guys talked about on that. So I'm if you want to just go review that whole episode. But I did have some notes on here that like other things, more like critical kind of things, like and for what I think I don't know what this was exactly, but there was something about the audio when I watched it that felt a little flat. I don't know if that was like something with my TV or the fact that I was streaming it on Voodoo.
Your TV was probably flat.
It is a flat screen. That's really derailed me.
Right.
I like overall, just it like made things feel a little bit off for me, which is kind of a negative, but I think it was just on my end. But anyways, like overall, I felt it was an interesting story. I really enjoyed like getting like more backstory on characters than we have in the past. I thought that was really cool. And it gave a lot of like emotional stakes, which we don't always get either. And like the big negative thing that I had with it was it felt like there was just constantly characters were like yelling at each other, and not in the way of like the first two movies where people like argue and bicker, and it was like lovable and adorable and like fun. It was like the tone of it was people were like legitimately angry at each other. And it was kind of like, it was like the point that what I wrote down here was like, it's the kind of thing like when you're in a room with people who are arguing and you feel like you should just step out of the room. That's kind of how I felt about the movie at points. I was like, oh, these people are really getting into it here. It was just kind of like weird energy. I don't know if that was like intentional in a way or just that's just how it came about. But you had a ton of that kind of stuff bickering and things in the first two movies and in the holiday special. But it didn't feel like that. It just felt like just goofy and whatever. So I'm not sure what that was. It was a bit of a negative for me though. The guy who played the High Evolutionary, well, I am not going to be able to pronounce his name, but he was great. Mm-hmm. It just like had this natural energy to the performance, and just really comes out as like this really brilliant, but like heartless and like kind of unhinged guy. And I think I'll play it off really well. What else I have right? So the one thing was like, so you get to the end of the movie, and basically like every character like ends the movie in a better place than where they started the movie. And it was this weird feeling because even though I really love all the characters in this series, it should have been made me happy. Like, oh man, all these people are getting what they deserve. Awesome. But I got to the end and I was like, I had this like a mixed emotion. I don't know why. I think maybe it was in part because the trailer made it feel like this was going to be like really doom and gloom, tragic story. And at the end, it was just kind of happy. Everybody goes off in their own way and, no harm, no foul. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I did have some odd negative feelings about it, but it had a lot of laughs and a lot of moments to cheer about. I guess 8 out of 10. So the last movie on my list here was my number one movie on my list, and it was the Mario movie. And so this is another movie that we've already reviewed on the podcast. Again, I'm not going to rehash it too much because, again, I agreed with pretty much everything you guys talked about on that one. I just kind of like right from the start of this movie, I just loved like every moment of it. It was like everything that I was expecting and wanted from it. All the characters felt right, like including the performances felt good to me. I think Seth Rogen probably is the one that kind of like sticks out a bit because it like legitimately was just Seth Rogen. It was like in every way, Donkey Kong was Seth Rogen. I didn't dislike it, but it was like a part of the movie that stuck out as kind of like apart from the rest for me.
Who was older, Seth Rogen or Donkey Kong?
That's an interesting question. They're probably about the same. And as far as like the characters, I felt like the performance of Mario and Luigi were probably what we needed for this movie. I know we've talked about it briefly before, but like if we'd gotten an hour and a half of Charles Martinet, Mario and Luigi, I don't think I would have liked this movie. That would have been too much. Because like there's a difference between an animated character who's meant to be a person and a cartoon character, which is what Mario is in the games. And I think like you can't, they had to be different going from movie to game. I don't think it would have worked the other way, but yeah, as I said, I thought the characters were really good. I enjoyed it. There was nothing that I was put off on there. The story was kind of just safe. It was simple, but for this film, it worked just fine because they had like so much other things crammed into it to enjoy. Including just so much nostalgia. And it was cool as it was done in a way that like it wasn't like clobbering you over the head with it constantly. They would just like sneak something in, and if you're a fan, you're like, oh, I know what that is. But it wasn't like bam in your face, this is look at this thing that we did. And so say I enjoyed all the way through. For me, this was a 9.5 out of 10. Nice. So it definitely came through as my number one movie.
And by the way, I just to answer your question from before, Donkey Kong is 1 year older than Seth Rogen. Donkey Kong came out in 1981. Seth Rogen was born in 82.
Came out in 1982.
But who smokes more weed is the question.
Funky Kong.
Well done.
Thank you.
Fast answer.
Do bananas count?
On to my games list. Also here I had, there's most of these games have come out. I think, well, at least more than half have come out already. I've only played 2 to this point. But it was my number 2 and my number 1 most anticipated game. So, it kind of fills out there. But the first one I'm going to talk about here is Diablo 4. This was number 2 on my list, and I was kind of holding off and like wondering, well, am I going to buy it? Am I not going to buy it? And then like a few days before the official release date, I was watching some people play it on Twitch, and I was like, damn, this game looks good. So I went ahead and bought it that day, which got me a few days of pre-release early play. But I probably got something like 25 hours into it right now. I'm like maybe halfway through the story. I'm not even sure exactly. I've been enjoying a lot about it. The gameplay is really solid. It feels like classic Diablo, which is what I wanted. Like Diablo 3 got a smidge out of like 1 and 2 gameplay, but it was mostly there. But it feels like 4 kind of like comes right back into the 1 and 2, gameplay style. The story's enjoyable so far, and I think the voice acting and the dialogue are both really good. It's very gory. It's a much darker like overall atmosphere than Diablo 3 did. And overall visually, I think it just looks really good. One of the big appeals to these games has always been that the loot drops in the game. So if you aren't familiar with it, basically you're slaying dozens and dozens of monsters, and then occasionally one of them craps out an item. And it's kind of like this every time it's like this little dopamine rush of like wondering like, oh, is it going to be a good item? Is it going to be like crap? We're going to find out. Which is a bit like some sort of gambling addiction in a way, I think. But I would say, if anything, Diablo 4 has actually improved on this system a bit, and that nearly all of the loot that you find is now specific to the class you're playing. So I'm playing a rogue. I always find like bows and knives and like light armor, things I can actually use. I'm not picking up axes. I'm not picking up heavy armor. I'm not picking up staves, and wands, So in that sense, it is better. I do have some negatives though on this game, and the first one is that I'm really on the fence with the level scaling, which occurs in every part of the game. So, this, I can't say that. I was going to say that this is the first one because it's not, though. That Diablo 3 was kind of an open kind of world, where you could kind of go wherever you wanted. You could go to the left side of the map, you could go to the right side of the map, you could go do whatever dungeon you wanted in whatever order. And this is the same kind of setup where it's not like Diablo 1 and 2, where it was like a literal like tower with like floors. So like clear out a floor, go down a floor, clear out a floor, go down to the next one. It's like this open world that you can just kind of explore as you please. So what they've done is they've introduced level scaling so that no matter where you go, the enemies are at the same level you are, essentially. I can definitely see why they did that, because obviously you want to feel engaged like wherever you go. The problems that I see coming up though is that like no matter where you go, it feels like you're always challenged. There's never like a breather. Like, okay, here's some easy. I'm just gonna like plow my way through these enemies. It's like, oh god, these enemies are gonna be tough again. It's just like some random place on the map, And I do have like this, like there's this weird like I don't know what's gonna happen. Like I foresee like definite possible problems in that, like, say like your equipment is starting to get old, like you haven't found a good loot drop in a while. Your weapon is getting like old and it's not good enough for your level anymore.
I know that feeling.
You have to go to the doctor and get an exam.
There's pills.
Yeah. And like in the old games, you could just go to an earlier level, grind a bunch of enemies, get some levels up, get some gold, go buy you some new equipment, come back to that duff level, knock it out. Now, no, you can't do that. There is nowhere on the map that is safe for leveling. And on top of that, you don't want to level, because if you level up, that dungeon that you were just stuck in gets even harder. And so, like, I see these problems. Like, what happens? And there's like weapon durability. What happens if your weapon breaks and you have nowhere to get a new weapon? And you're like, everywhere you go, the enemies are just as hard as they are anywhere else.
Russia.
Like, if only. And so, like, I haven't run into this problem yet, but I foresee it as like a really potential problem, like a game-ending problem. Because another thing that I've experienced, I'm like halfway through the game and I have not bought one single item from a shop. Because I go to a weapon shop and I look and I'm like, okay, what do these guys have today? Nothing better than what I currently have. Great. Okay. Let's go try the armor shop. Nothing better than what I currently have. And it is weird. I like that always used to be the thing in Diablo. Like you grind some gold, buy a new weapon, good to go. So
That's not necessary, Cody.
Damn ghosts.
Nothing Cody does is ever necessary. I kid.
All right, so we're back. So where I left off was like, are we just like going through just a random, like, from one location to another, and there's just like these piddly little enemies that you should be like just hack them once and boop, just plow through them, and they're like bullet sponges, and it's like, man, I just trying to get to a different place. Let me through here. And I've been frustrated by that several times already. And my concerns in this game currently have like added up to the point where I'm not certain I'm gonna play this to completion, which is kind of a sad thing to say. Like I might try a different class. Like I've been playing a rogue, a bow wielding rogue. I might try a different class. Maybe I'll have better luck, more fun with a different class. But overall, I think the game is really good. There's problems that I'm having with it that aren't living up to what I hoped. So I'm giving this a 7 out of 10 overall. It's a good game, but it has some interesting issues. That brings me to my number one most anticipated game of the year, which was Hogwarts Legacy. And now obviously there's been a lot of pushback on this game, due to all the controversy surrounding J.K. Rowling, and whether it's deserved or not, I'm not going to dive into that right now. But there's been a lot of people who are like calling to boycott the game. There's been a lot of people say they're not going to play it. They're not going to do anything to support her. I get where they're coming from. But also, I look at this, and if you're a Harry Potter fan and you're not playing this game for one reason or another, that is a true tragedy. And I feel bad for everyone involved in that situation, because this game is a truly great experience.
Brett's views are not those of everyone on the Fine Podcast.
So I'm just going to break this down a little bit by like categories in the game. So overall atmosphere of being like in this Harry Potter world, 10 out of 10. The overall, it feels so great in this world, especially with the music and everything else. They really, really nailed it on that point. Location designs, including castle, Hogsmeade Village, other surrounding villages, 9 out of 10. 10 out of 10. I had this at 10. The castle is amazing. I spent like the first few days playing this just like exploring the castle because it is amazing. And a lot of things like the open world around it is just really well done as well. It's like it's just gorgeous and varied. And like the world itself, I give this like an 8.5 out of 10 though. Even though it is very well done in some respects, there are some problems with it where like there's like just like random caves you can go just and like dungeons you can just dive into. And like 90% of them are identical. So not well done there. It's just like this little short little path, like maybe a puzzle to solve, and there's like one loot box at the end, and it's usually something that you doesn't even help you. So it's like not good there. But overall, that was really good. The characters and the voice acting are really well done overall. There were some issues with the voice acting. I had like there were characters, because you're in the school and all the characters are like teens or preteens, and very clearly some of the voices were just adults trying to sound like teens, and so it was a lot of like, "Oh, hi guys, how's it going? It's good to see you." Like, and oh yeah, that's a teen. Sure, okay.
You use that voice from now on.
So like a main character and most of the main characters and side characters were very well done, but there were some that I was like, oh, you guys could have done better there. The combat and the spell system was really fun. It's also kind of just visually rewarding, wherein like maybe like a shooter where you got a gun, like you don't see the bullets, you see the end result. But like in here, you're casting spells and you see them fly across screen, and they all are very unique visually and they have these different effects. The combat is really fun to play. I enjoyed that quite a bit. There's a lot of different strategies you can use, spell combinations. You can do like stealth kind of stuff if you want. So also really good there. There's even like a base building mechanic. So if you're familiar with the movies or the books, there's a place in the castle called the Room of Requirement, which essentially molds itself to whatever you need it to be. And so like you have this space in the castle that you can just build it any way you want it. And there's also a magical creatures mechanic where you basically are like rescuing them. It's like I always got this Pokemon vibe, which is pretty fun. You like just go out and capture these creatures and then like keep them in your little zoo area. There were some people who complained about the performance of it. Personally, I didn't see any of these issues. Not to flex, but I guess my PC is strong enough that I didn't see these issues, so I can't comment yay or nay on that. But I had it set on nearly max graphics, and it ran well. I have seen some reviews that like the replayability is not real high because the choices you make, including like what house you start in, doesn't actually change the story in any real meaningful way. Mm-hmm. Which is unfortunate because I think there's a lot they could have done in that regard, like changing the story depending on how you chose to play through it. Maybe they'll update in the future. I don't. But overall, this playthrough was one of the best gaming experiences I've had in quite a while. It does, it is shaded by the fact that that I and my wife are fans, and so I was diving into something that I already enjoyed, so it is definitely has, take that grain of salt with it. But like I feel like there's enough positives on the things that aren't directly Harry Potter related that someone who's not a fan really should enjoy this game, I would think. But anyways, I would give this easily a 9 out of 10. I think, and even it probably could be improved beyond that if they did some updates. But yeah, this game did not let down. It was great if you can get past the fact that you are giving it some portion of your money to J.K. Rowling. So,
Do you have a most anticipated remaining project?
As far as movies, we definitely are going to go out and see Indiana Jones at some point. As I said, we were trying to and just couldn't find somebody to watch the kids. So that would be my most anticipated. And from what Joe said, I'm even more excited about it now because I'm glad that like someone who enjoys and appreciates the series said it was good. So that has me even more excited for it. As I said, we're going to watch Knock at the Cabin soon. Like I say, it comes out free in a few days, so we'll check that out for sure. As far as games, so one story that I've been following kind of loosely is the story of the Dark and Darker game, and at this point, it sounds like it is at a dead stop. So, just real quick into the backstory of that. Basically, the developers of Dark and Darker, they broke off from this larger parent company. And the parent company accused them of stealing code for the game. And so they are fighting over that tooth and nail. And the larger parent company basically has them like squashed under their boot at the moment. And it looks like that project is just going to die. But there is, I don't know the name of it off the top of my head right now. There is someone who stepped up and is making basically the exact same game as a different developer. So we'll see how that game turns out. But my most anticipated game that I have not played yet because it hasn't come out yet is Starfield. I think kind of like, as Joe said, Bethesda has a really good track record with these things. I'm expecting the story to be really good and fun and meaningful. And I think the premise of going to all these different worlds and exploring, which is going to end up being like a lot like No Man's Sky, which I have played through like a long time ago. I like that just kind of exploration feel. I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, we'll see. We're only 6 weeks away from that, so get pretty excited.
Before I start, Joe, just remind me: is the Strange New Worlds on Peacock or Paramount?
Is on Paramount Plus.
All right, that's what I thought. But
also, last I checked, I think it was all on YouTube. I don't know if it still is, but it was.
Yeah, okay. I actually watched a few episodes of that. I haven't got back around to finishing it.
What'd you think of the episodes you watched?
I've been enjoying it. Yeah. I don't know where I would place it in line with other Star Treks yet, but I was enjoying it. So
cool.
Okay, well, I'll get to my lists here. I'm going to kind of brainstorming how to do this best while you are all going. Can I split both these lists into three? I was also on, obviously, the movies and video game one. I'm going to start with the movies. I'm going to split this into three. The first third of my list is movies that have come out that I haven't seen yet, which I'm so happy you guys told me that Knock at the Cabin Door comes out soon, because that's one of the ones I want to see, and almost rented it actually over vacation. So glad I held off on that one. I still have yet to see The Pale Blue Eye, which came out January 6th. So no real good excuse there. It's on Netflix. Need to get to that still. We have also not seen Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, but we also may go tomorrow, Joe, depending on how our schedule works out, or probably Sunday actually, but we'll see. It's either going to be that or Barbie, I think. Barbie's not on my list, but everyone that has seen it, including some coworkers, surprisingly said it was fantastic. So, I don't know, but that's that. Let's see. I missed Evil Dead Rise. Still would like to see that at some point. And The Blackening came out last month, according to my list, at least. I know it was in some theaters a bit ago, which is, I mentioned that one on the earlier podcast, based on a short comedy skit that they did, which was like a serial killer has a bunch of people trapped at the house and the black character always dies first, but this is what happens if all the characters are black. And the serial killer is confused, I guess. At least that's the premise of the short sketch, but I don't know what happens in the full movie here, but it looks funny regardless. So and then those are the ones that are out that I haven't seen. Ones I have seen, I don't think I need to spend a ton of time on these. Dungeons and Dragons, we did a podcast on that. That was really enjoyable. I forget what score I gave that, but it was similar to what Justin said, it was better than I expected it to be. It was funnier than I expected it to be. I still laugh in my head when I think of Chris Pine's face melting as he was the projection guy playing the whatever the hell he had, not a lute. I was going to say ukulele. It was a lute. Mario's Brother movie was fantastic as well. We did a podcast on that one. Also had just about everything you could ask for, I think, as far as fan service. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I really enjoyed as well. Not as much as Dave enjoyed, apparently. If you guys did listen to that podcast, he put that all the way up at number 4 or 5 for his MCU movies of all time. So that was a little higher than I had it, but he really liked it. And then, the other one I saw on my list was Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania, which Brett talked about pretty well there also, which I thought was good when I watched it in the movie theater. I don't know that my opinion has gone down that much about it since then. It just wasn't like one of the best movies, but it was definitely a very enjoyable movie, which, taking away the Kang aspect of it, is kind of how I've always viewed the Ant-Man movies in general, which is I've always liked them. I always think they're really funny. I think Paul Rudd's charming, and the other characters that have been around him have been good too, but hasn't been like the top tier of Marvel, but always enjoyable. And I kind of fit that. So then the ones I have yet to watch because they're not out yet, I have the Marvels, which was originally scheduled in July, and I heard there's a bunch of people weirded out right now because I'm confused if both Burger King and McDonald's have the Marvels toys. That's what somebody made it sound like, but they're all coming out now because this is when the movie was supposed to be out. Even though it's not coming out till November now or something, I think. So get your movies now, folks, or movie toys if you want them now. I don't need it either of those places anymore, obviously, for reasons, but Haunting in Venice, which is the third of the Kenneth Branagh detective movies where he's Poirot, and comes out September 15th, last I heard at least, so still some mild interest in that. I haven't seen the second one yet, actually, still, though, and that's a little...
I've heard it's not good.
Already?
No, the second one I've heard is really not good.
Oh, yeah, I heard it was worse than the first one, but...
The third one looks good. I saw the trailer for that recently. It looks pretty good.
Okay. I think with the advent of the Knives Out franchise, it's harder for me to take the straight-laced, old-timey, serious detective movies as good now because those were so fun. Yeah. What else do I have? Oppenheimer, which comes out, I marked down today. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
So that'll be one we'll definitely see. We were talking about Barbie, Oppenheimer, and Spider-Man. I want to see at least one of those this weekend. And Kraven the Hunter I had as an honorable mention. I probably won't see that, but I was really high on what's his name? Aaron
Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, I always get him and the girl mixed up. Aaron Taylor Johnson because of
because you love a Johnson?
No, because of Bullet Train. I was like, I'd go watch that guy in a movie. He's funny. And Dune 2 I have as an honorable mention, although I did watch Dune 1 and it's okay.
Yeah.
It was okay.
You know what? You have legendarily bad taste. So.
You know what would have been good in Dune 1 if anything happened? That would have made the movie better, but maybe that's in the sequel. And then the last honorable mention, which I just saw my first trailer for. Maybe you've already seen the trailer for this. It was my last honorable mention when we did this. Comes out August 11th. It's the better Dracula movie that comes out this year. Not Renfeld, but Last Voyage of the Demeter, which looks like straight up horror on a ship, which looks pretty awesome. So, Justin, you have to see previews for that one?
I actually just saw the first trailer for that a couple days ago myself. It looks fantastic.
Yep. So we'll see. Doesn't have Nicolas Cage, but sometime when we have more time on our podcast, we'll talk about Nicolas Cage's Renfield movie and what he's using the money to try to pay off down in New Orleans from my trip I just went on. So we got a lot of Nick Cage when we were in New Orleans. His house is his grave, his stories, his run-ins with voodoo, his spirits that he has pissed off. Like, we got a lot of good stories about him while we were down there. So that's it for the movies. So I'll just kind of summarize real quickly here. I guess my most anticipated movie left for this year probably is going to be the Marvels for multiple reasons. One, I liked Captain Marvel herself. And I also enjoyed whatever name they've given her. I forget now if it's Spectrum or Photon or whoever.
I think it's Photon.
Monica Rambeau's
Rambeau.
character's name is going to be Photon. Is that what they went with? I forget. She has like 6 names in the comics. So I enjoyed her. And I was actually one that was lower on the Ms. Marvel series in general, but we'll see how the 3 of them work out. I'm also curious because is there we could talk about that in another podcast, but I don't even know. Is there another movie that's going to be set to roll past that one that's far enough along with all these strikes coming up? Or is this going to be the last one for a while? Slash with all of the doom and gloom at Disney, which is another topic I was going to throw at everybody tonight. Is this going to right the ship a little bit? Or is this already going to be doomed because so many fanboys, well, I wouldn't say fanboys, misogynists hated Captain Marvel the first time when it came out. With all the review bombs, if you recall. That might have been like the first one I remember, the big uproar about review bombs.
The first big one, yeah.
But anyway, that's probably my most anticipated movie coming up. On to video games, and I'm also going to split this in 3 real quick. First of all, I'm going to do games that were on my list that I know I'll never play. And I don't have dates on these. Yeah, well,
why are they on your list?
If you remember when I made this list, I specified that for a lot of these actually, as I made the list on air. Metroid Prime 4, if it ever comes out, that'd be fantastic. So that one I would play, but who knows if it'll ever come out and or when. Cult of the Lamb, the physical edition, probably will never get to that. Persona 4, maybe. Those games still intrigue me, but I may never get to any of those either. The Disney Illusion Island game actually still looks oddly really fun for 3 to 4 players. If you have some people, or maybe 2 even, if you have somebody else to play with. I'm not a fan of the Disney characters that much that I'd go get a game about them, but it really looks like Mickey Mousecapades modernized for 1 to 4 players, modernized with new graphics and adventure styles. So could be pretty fun. Hades
they should have gone with Adventures in the Magic Kingdom.
That's the sequel, the remaster they need to make.
Yeah.
Right? You should throw that out. Disney might be desperate for money right now. Because of Indiana Jones.
They'll have at least one sale.
Oh, see what I did there? You laughed. Okay. Hades 2, I haven't heard anything on that. Might be coming out, might not be. Maybe you guys know, not so sure. Pikmin 4 is either just out or is just coming out for Nintendo. All of those games are great. They're not ones I ever am like, ooh, Pikmin's coming out. But when I sit and play them, they're all fantastic little puzzlers with the little Pikmin themselves. And then the last one I probably will never play would be Tales of Symphonia Remastered, which was all the way up at number 7 on my list. But I was mostly, if you recall, just super happy that there's a remastered version of this coming out because it's still probably my top RPG of all time. So I'm just happy that other people will get a chance to play that one.
Have you ever played any of the other Tales games out of curiosity?
I the only other one I tried was Tales of Symphonia 2, actually, which I went like maybe halfway through the game on and just didn't get us hooked. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember what platform that was on even. I don't remember. One of the weird ones.
It was like PlayStation or something, but I don't know. But yeah, they all have their own different flavors to them. So you might find another Tales game that appeals to you too. And some of them are on the Switch.
Okay.
So, yeah.
For the very few that I haven't played and would still be excited to play or / maybe would plan to play this year, my number 10 game was Fatal Frame Mask of the Lunar Eclipse Remaster, which I still would have some interest in playing that. I've dabbled with it on a couple websites. I haven't bought it though, but I've looked at it on a few websites over the year. I'm a little confused because I just looked at some reviews and like some of them had it at a 5 out of 5 and 10 out of 10, and Nintendo, I think itself, Nintendo Life probably had it like a 6 out of 10, which is a pretty drastic difference. So I'm not sure where the truth is on that. I might have to look a little further into like a meta rating on that. And the other 2 for me would be Silk Song, if it ever comes out. Who knows? But that was my number 4 I was looking forward to. And number 6, Justin did a podcast on, which is Fire Emblem Engage. And that's just purely because I think I'm starting to become such a fan of the series. I probably would try this one as well, even though it's away from that cast that I love from Three Houses and Three Hopes. But that would be one I'd be excited about. So the ones I've played, which is where I'll spend a smidge of time here with you all, is 4 of my top 10 on video games in no particular order. My number 5 game was Curse of the Sea Rats, which is the one I vented to everybody because it took like 2 years for the game to finally get to me, because it was a Kickstarter. And the kids and I have been playing 3 players on this intermittently. My plan to like push everything so I had like room to play one game and then one game and then one game fell apart drastically because of the vacation, and like every game we seemingly had been waiting for came out at the exact same time, so that didn't help. But we have really been enjoying how they made a multiplayer Metroidvania, or Retroidvania as they called this one. It's got like a very nice tech level up system for each of the characters you play as. There's 4 pirates you can pick from, so we're playing basically the 3 that are not the big tough brawly guy. I have like a Native American girl pirate who can like throw knives, and she's pretty cool. She's like a range attack person, and I think one of the kids has like a sword and one's like magic or something. But they're all nice in that they have really a different way you play them. So every time you can level up your tech tree, there's 2 individual trees. One's for like your attack and body, and one's for like your magic. And so it's always a choice of like, we saved up enough points to upgrade. Should I upgrade like the stats I use constantly, or should I upgrade like the big attack stats on the magic that I use less frequently but will do more damage to the bosses? A ton of charm in this game. This was supposedly all hand drawn, the entire thing. And it's beautiful to look at. The cutscenes are beautiful. The personality of not only the pirates, but the NPCs and the villains in the game is beautiful. Lots of discoveries to have. Like, it's typical Metroidvania, and like you have locked areas, so you got to kind of progress in a different direction, get some choices. We met some odd characters who have like weird requests for things that we haven't seen yet in the game, so presumably we will find them later. Very nice color coding on the map on this one with fast travel, and the spirit, I don't know what you call him, spirit wizard or whatever you want to say, who's kind of like your mentor or the guide through the game. But though it took forever to come out, can't recommend this one enough. It's actually been a lot of fun, especially if you have anybody to play it with. I imagine it'd be fun 1 player 2, but they really did do a nice job of making it multiplayer. It's fun. It's hard, but it is fun. It's like forgiving hard. Like you will eventually pass those things, but you just got to play them a few more times. So that one's good. I'll wait till I get a little further into the game and then maybe come back with some kind of rating later on. But for what we've played now of it, maybe like 8 out of 10. It's been pretty good. The next one here was my number 3 game, which I just finished Tuesday night. And that was over at Dave's house, Resident Evil 4 Remake for PlayStation 5. It took us 3 nights to get through this game. 2 nights we did here earlier this year, and then we just finished it up this Tuesday at his house. Fantastic. I'm not going to say, like, if you've played Resident Evil 4, and basically probably every gamer under or over the age of like 16 probably has. I mean, it's been released a dozen times now on different platforms and iterations and whatnot. Really good. Graphics are really good in this one. They change just enough here and there. So like you as like I've played this game probably 5 or 6 times straight through. So like I remembered the game way better than Dave did, because I think he's only played it once or twice. But there would still be parts where like they would switch what happens, or the map would change, and you'd be like running along like, I know what to do. Okay, this is different. And so there would be some parts that did stop to like make you look around a little bit more, maybe come up with some different strategies. They tweaked some enemies. There's some different types of big enemies in the game. One boss in particular was much different than it used to be, which I won't say too much on that one, but some things stayed the same. Some of the other side characters in the game changed quite a bit in terms of their motivation or how they're presented in the game. So that's kind of fun. Even the president's daughter, Ashley, is a little bit different in this game as well. And there's definitely sections of the game that are quite a bit different than they used to be. But it was really fun as we were finishing the game Tuesday night, because I was like, wait, we didn't do like this section of the game yet. And then like I looked it up online and like that section is no longer even in the game. So like there's parts that they've taken out completely and other areas that they've added in to kind of redo the game. But a lot of fun. It was really nice to get back to the briefcase and the merchant, and like the upgrade system was a little bit different on everything, the weapons and everything that it used to be. But really a lot of fun on that. If I had to do the remake, I mean, 9 out of 10. It's pretty fantastic remake, but it's a remake of a fantastic game. So unless you really fucked it up, the remake's going to be fantastic. All right, 2 more here real quick to finish up my list. Number 1, I'm going to skip to, which is Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I assume I'm the only one playing this from the group that I know of. There we go. Unfortunately, with this one, I'm not going to say it's unfortunately bad, but unfortunately, we just haven't had the time to devote to this one that I wanted to, for as excited as I was for it. Easily my number 1 anticipated game, possibly the most anticipated sequel I think I've ever had as well. It's very fun. The kids and I just started getting back into it again the last few nights here. And the problem is like I mean, it's not a problem. I love it. But you like try to go from point A to point B in this game, just like the first one. And that's like your goal. You're like, I got an hour to play. I'm at A. I need to get to B. I'm going to get to there and do whatever, climb up this tower and open up a new portion of the map or whatever. And like you'll encounter so many damn things between point A and point B that you'll never make it to B. Because you're going to, come across C, D, E, and F on the way. And we split our time because there's 3 of us playing it. So, like, we usually do a stopwatch, and, like, the kids will get 45 minutes, and then the other one will get 45 minutes, and then I'll get 45 minutes. And usually nothing progresses until my 45 minutes, which is the problem. Like, Cameron spent hers trying to tame a deer and find a horse for 45 minutes because that's what she likes to do in the game. Boston does usually try to do something, but ends up getting distracted on different types of quests than I would. So then it's my turn, and I'm like, okay, here's this thing. But it's super fun. The map in this one, if you played or saw the first one, it has the same base map as the first one, except basically this new world fell out of the sky onto the first map. So like stuff is destroyed and there's like new things where there didn't used to be things. And it's both familiar and new. And the first game had a massive, massive map. So there's that. And then there is still the sky world, which is above it, which you can access in a couple different ways, either by warping or flying, like through a rocket launcher, basically up high. And there's islands up there that you can explore, which are very hard to get from island to island, at least at the moment. So that's a smaller world, but it still covers the same area of map. If that makes sense. It's just like overlaid on top of the base map. And that's huge. But then we got a little bit into the underworld in this game, which is another map the same size as the base map, but underground in the dark. And that's where it's kind of, there's some creepy crawlies down there that you can't really get from point A to point B very easy because of different obstacles there. So we've only done a little bit of that one, but there's just like a colossal amount of things to see and do and collect and side quests. And it's so far it's been very different. Like in the first game, there was 4 races that helped you or you kind of did things with. And in this game, like seemingly we've seen, I think 3 of them so far, and they all have like a problem. So like they're not even where they used to be anymore. So the world is very different. The enemies are very different. And I know a lot of people harped on the breakable weapons in the first one. Those are still back in the second one, but this game is harder than the first one because of the curse that's basically on the land now. All of the weapons are like 1/3 of their power, essentially, give or take. So it's very hard to find any weapons that are any strong at all. Like the strongest thing we found in like the last 3 days was actually like an arm off an enemy that we killed. Like we just picked up and used that as a weapon. But it has some pretty fantastic crafting systems for the like items that you can build, which is kind of the advertised thing, I think, on websites, but also has a pretty interesting crafting system with the weapons. So if you have like a whatever weapon it is, a halberd or a bow or a shield or a whatever, you can craft now with any item you have in your inventory. You can combine the two and it'll add some sort of effect to it. So, for example, I had a shield earlier today that I was running around with that I had crafted like this stone fire breathing dragon head too, and I could use it to like defend myself, but also use it as a weapon and like breathe flames out of it as I was running around until the shield ended up breaking. But you can add like a soldier's horn to something to increase the attack power, or something else to something to make it faster as a weapon, or there's some really interesting combos you can do, basically limitless, which is kind of crazy. But it's been a lot of fun. We just haven't got far enough into it, so we're only about maybe 10 hours in, so I'd hold off on even rating that one yet at this point, but it was pretty fun. And the last game I'm going to talk about is kind of an interesting one here. This was my number 2 anticipated game for the year, and it is the wrestling game AEW Fight Forever, which came while we were on vacation. And I can see how people either really love or hate this game online, because if you're like me and last played a wrestling game in like 2002 or whatever, this felt like coming home, because the controls are mostly the same. The graphics are mostly the same. The play style is mostly the same. But if you're anybody who has like followed wrestling games from 2002 to present, you're like, what the hell am I playing right now? This looks like a bad arcade game, which is kind of what they went for, really. But it's really interesting in that it's really easy to pick up and play. It's fairly realistic in the fact of like, if your guy gets too hurt in certain parts of their body, like they don't work as well, or like Brett, we played a lot of like 45-minute, 1-hour matches back in the day. Like matches in this one can be done in like 2.5 minutes to like 8 or 10 minutes is probably a typical match. So pretty more realistic, I guess, if you were really getting the shit kicked out of you. But it's been pretty fun. We, I don't know how many of them, there's like 50 or 60 guys and girls that you can pick from. We already bought the season pass, so I think we got 2 wrestlers already as new DLC on that. And we have, I think, 4 more lined up that we'll get when they are released. You can build a wrestler, so each have our own wrestler that came out. My guy's nickname is the Octopus. He's from Puerto Rico, and he's got all his fun body paint and Puerto Rico flags all over him and stuff. But 2 other things I wanted to mention with this one, in addition to just it being really fun. Well, 3 things, actually. One is it's not a long game, so if you are somebody who, again, plays these more modern games, they're used to like season mode or like career mode or whatever, with the person you pick. And there is a mode in here called Road to the Elite where you play 1 year, but it's really made up of 4 months, so that's not even true. It's really like 4 months. You play 1 week. You play once each week. You can choose to do what you want with your skill points. So basically you get 16, 20 turns basically, and the game's over. And I'm on like 17 or 18 right now on the playthrough that I'm doing. But it's kind of interesting because you like do your match on TV, and then you get like skill points, kind of like you in a Fire Emblem, to choose what you want to do in between the TV tapings. So you can go sightsee. It's actually kind of cool. You can go sightsee whatever city you're in and like see like Statue of Liberty or the Liberty Bell or whatever you want. Or you can go to local restaurants that are there and have like the local delicacies and like talk to a waitress about what makes the hoagie the best in this city, or why deep dish pizza's in Chicago. Or you can do bonus matches, or you can go to the gym and train, or you can do mini games. So there's mini games that you can play by itself if you want, as just like a game mode, or you can do them the week to week, and it's actually kind of fun. It's like the best thing I could compare it to is like a mix of Mario Party and like the Street Fighter 2 bonus stages. Because when the first time I did this, I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. But there were like 4 of us in the wrestling ring, and they were dropping like giant poker chips from the sky. And like one made you go faster, one made you go slower, and one was worth like 2 points. But you could, so you're like running around trying to collect as much as you can within like the minute or whatever. But you can still also punch each other and do the wrestling moves to each other at the same time. So it just gets insane because I'm like 2-pointer, and now I got to run to it. And then the computer just like kicks me in the face and I fall over or something. That one's pretty fun. There was, man, I don't even know. I've played like 6 or 7 I've found so far, but they're each just kind of really fun, stupid little mini games, but they're actually a lot of fun. So that's been kind of fun. And then last thing I wanted to mention on this one, you all know what Fortnite is, correct? Yes,
Incredibly, Chris.
So they are working on one thing they're doing differently with this than like the WWE games is WWE puts out a new game every year. And this company's goal is they have like this base game that they've given you, but they're going to try to continually improve it for like at least 3 years and keep adding stuff to it. How much of that is free and how much of that is updates, I don't know what'll end up be the case there. But in AEW, they have this specialty match once a year called Stadium Stampede, which they got the idea from because during the pandemic, they were stuck in Jacksonville and couldn't tour because pandemic. But the guy that owns the company is the same family that owns the Jacksonville Jaguars football team. So they got this idea and they were given permission by like the fire marshals and the owner, was obviously the dad of the guy who runs this, to go in and use the football stadium for a match. And they were given like, I don't even know, 12 hours or something. They were given time to go into this and just film whatever the hell they wanted to. And so the Stadium Stampede was born, where they were like fighting on the sidelines and using like the golf carts against each other and going up into the bar and hitting each other and all this stuff. Well, this has become this iconic match they've done 2 or 3 times, I think, over the years. But they're going to release an update relatively soon-ish, which has the Stadium Stampede match in it. And I mentioned Fortnite because I've seen a few websites speculate that this probably is not going to be as popular as Fortnite. But the concept is if you have online play, they're going to drop like 40 or 50 of you in this giant football field full of weapons and places you can go attack each other. And it's going to basically be like 50-person wrestling or 50-person Street Fighter or whatever you want to compare it to.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, so that, and the weapons in this game are super fun already. So that would really be a fun little mode if they put that together correctly. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So, yeah. The other thing I want to mention real quick on this one is you play one match at the beginning in the career mode, and then it's a short thing. Like I said, you only play about 20 matches, give or take, before your year is done, and then that's the end of it. But there's actually like a branch of 3 choices that you're going to get the storyline to for the first month. The second month has 3 new branches. The next month has 3 new branches, and the last month has 3 new branches. So like the game I'm playing is different than the one the kids got because it depends on where you win or lose or what choices you make here and there. And I gather that all has some factor in like unlocking some of the super secret people that are in the game as well. So right now I'm on some weird one where somebody is playing pranks on me and people keep describing a big person. And I suspect it's the Big Show, but I'm not positive yet because I'm not far enough in that storyline yet. So I suspect he'll kill me when we eventually wrestle. But so that's my number 2. If I had to rate that one so far, pretty fun. Maybe like 8 out of 10 so far, I would say on that one as well.
Nice.
Yeah. So finishing up me, most anticipated video game. I mean, I don't know. I guess just purely for who knows if it'll come out, I'd pick Silk Song just in case it ever does come out this year. So, whew, there we go. Joe, you still awake?
Barely.
Yeah, right. I've had a really hard time getting through this episode because I keep getting distracted by Brett's screensaver, but that's
I don't know what you're talking about.
Neither here nor there. So anyway, well, holy cow, that is a lot of recap of 2023.
Indeed.
Maybe
that's why things are done.
Yeah. I'll have to do a year-end wrap here where we talk about if we got to the rest of these or not. Get to there. So, any parting thoughts from anybody out there?
No, it was kind of nice to touch base about some of this stuff, just because I had honestly forgotten a few of the things that were on my list, especially like the honorable mentions and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was nice to have a refresher and be like, oh yeah, I had been looking forward to that. Whatever happened to that? And look it up. Oh, it's not out yet. That kind of thing. But it's a nice refresher. So
yeah, it's good it's just good to host with a bunch of people again on an episode 2 and just kind of been a long time since we've had a full house here. So
get back in the groove.
Yeah, for sure.
I will say I am also looking forward to Silk Song if it ever comes out.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds like we're just about out of time here today, ladies and gents. So again, this has been Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. Our usual plug here, you can find us on all of your social media places and also podcast streaming platforms. Check us out, tell a friend about us, buy some sweet merchandise, hop over to www.fawnpodcast.com. You can buy the glass that Brett has or Joe has.
Yes.
Not what I have, though. Anything would taste better than what I have, though. So don't taste that. It's probably better than Truly, but it's pretty close.
That's not saying much.
No, it's really not saying much at all. That stuff's terrible. All right. Well, I guess we'll leave today with everybody taking a look at what their favorite project was so far this year. And we're going to sing our theme song in the vein of whatever your favorite project was from this year. So until next time, everybody, this has been another episode of Friends. We're occasionally not
disagree.
Friends.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.